Hi, everyone, I'm Dan Abrams, and this is Court Chat.
Ready to take the lead?
First up, we're at the Oklahoma County Courthouse in Oklahoma City. The man seen here in the brown jacket about to enter the courtroom is David Knight. The 30-year-old's in court today for a hearing regarding drug possession charges, but he's unaware there's also an outstanding warrant for his arrest. So before deputies can take him into custody, Knight slips out of the courtroom. His exit is perfectly timed, hitting the elevator just as the doors are opening. On the ground floor, Knight steps out of the elevator, gets his bearings, then makes a break for it. It looks like he might slip out under the radar. But now comes the toughest part, getting past the last security checkpoint and this deputy. With the officer on his heels, Knight bursts through the exit and out onto the street. It's a flat-out foot race for freedom. And the winner is the deputy, who, just out of the camera's view, catches Knight and brings him down with a tackle in front of some curious bystanders. He was taken into custody and charged with obstructing an officer. He'd later plead guilty and was given a 1-year suspended sentence, meaning jail time is deferred as long as he abides by the conditions of his probation. Next, we're in Pontiac, Michigan, for the sentencing of Brianna Smart. The 22-year-old was convicted of fleeing and eluding police, resisting and obstructing a police officer causing injury, assault with a deadly weapon, and driving with a suspended license after she fled a traffic stop. Now, before Judge Hala Jarboe hands down a sentence, she offers Smart a chance to address the court.
I would like to send my deepest apologies to his office. I never meant for none of this to happen.
Yes, you know. Let's back up. You did. Your actions were all deliberate, okay? This isn't the time to make excuses.
Up to is this. She's driving the vehicle, making a left turn here. Behind her, an Auburn Hills police officer runs her plate and discovers Smart is the registered driver of the vehicle, and that she has a suspended license. After pulling the car over, he confirms that Smart is behind the wheel.
Brianna, right? You know, license suspended?
Yeah, I know my license is suspended, no. I know I got a ticket on the plate and never told me my license is suspended.
Step out for me, okay? Leave your cell phone in safe, please.
Yeah, the police just pulled me over.
Keep your cell phone. Why?
I don't know why he pulled me over. He didn't tell me why. What was the reason he pulled me over? Excuse me. Don't touch me, sir.
Smart refuses the officer's order to put down her cell phone and continues talking to the person on the other end.
He's harassing me. He's putting handcuffs on me, Jalen. Jalen, he's touching me. He's hitting me, Jalen. You need to come up here. No, I'm not putting my hands in your What's up? I don't know. You're not arresting me for what? You never told me why you never told me why you were arrested. You never told me why you put me arrested. Okay, so you're putting your hands on me. I'm a free person.
After resisting being handcuffed, Smart pushes her way back into the vehicle. The officer then tries to pull her from the car, and Smart attempts to drive off. With the officer still holding onto her arm, Smart throws the car in reverse and hits the gas. Her open door slams into the officer, pushing him backwards, nearly crushing him between it and the front of his cruiser. Luckily for the officer, Smart's car was brought to a stop when it slams into his car before he gets pinched in between. Smart fled the scene and was arrested later that night. The officer was treated for minor injuries at the hospital and released. Now at sentencing, it's clear Judge Jarboe has little patience for Smart's disregard for the law.
What you did was deliberate. You not only rammed into that officer, you rammed into his vehicle, and then you took off. The only thing that you were concerned about was yourself and getting out of that situation.
And I apologize. My deepest apologies to this officer. Truly sorry. I'm happy that I pray every day that he wasn't, severely hurt. I'm very sorry. I got 2 kids at home, Braylon and Brighton. They're both young. Braylon is 1 and Brighton is 8 months old. This is my first crime in trouble. And I understand that I made a bad choice. I do understand I just want to go home with my kids. I just want to be able
to do is to enjoy his life.
The 22-year-old is facing several charges from an incident where she fled the scene of a traffic stop. Now standing before Judge Hala Jarboe, she just finished making her final plea and awaits her sentence.
Thank you for allowing me to stand in front of you and say what I have to say.
You need to grow up. So you have 2 young kids, but you are still acting like you're that age. The only reason that you are not going to go to prison today is because you don't have a criminal history. But you're going to stay in the Oakland County Jail, and there are going to be a slew of conditions. You're sentenced to 2 years probation, 365 days jail, 56 days credit.
Typically, sentences of under a year are served at county jail rather than state prison. Smart is also ordered to complete 100 hours of community service, accept mental health treatment, and attend an anger management program. Judge Jarboe also makes it clear that Smart's behavior will be under the microscope every day moving forward.
I'm promising you this today. If you come back on the slightest violation, whatever that is, if that means the probation department tells you to show up at 8:30 and you show up at 8:35, you are going to the Department of Corrections. You will go to prison. Do you understand that?
Next, we're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a bond hearing. 28-year-old Tyra Van Zant is facing a long list of charges, including grand theft and resisting arrest, after she was caught stealing more than $400 in jewelry and purses from a department store.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, how are you doing, sir?
Today, Judge John Hurley will decide if she's eligible for bond. But as Van Zant waits for the hearing to start, she begins pleading her case to a higher court.
Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. In Jesus' name, stay out of here, salvation. Please let me be released from this jail board. Thank you, Jesus.
Unfortunately for Van Zant, the ultimate judge is not presiding over this hearing. Instead, it's Judge Hurley, who seems caught off guard by the defendant's prayers.
Please let me be released from this jail board. Thank you, Jesus.
Before Judge Hurley dives into Van Zant's charges, questions about her professional life take center stage.
Are you employed when you're not in jail?
Yes, sir.
What type of work is it? Oh.
I work at Pure Platinum.
Pure Platinum might be considered a place of heavenly bodies, just not in the biblical sense.
I'm not going to ask any further questions along that line. By the way, I don't know anything about where you work. I just what people say in here.
About the severity of Van Zant's crimes, the tone of the hearing begins to sour.
Wow. They had to tase the defendant to bring her down. She wouldn't stop.
A closer look at Van Zant's recent criminal history also reveals this isn't her first time facing very serious charges.
You've been arrested 8 times in a matter of a couple of years. I don't know, it's like every time you go out your front door, you're getting arrested. So she gets arrested, you said in June? She got arrested in June for obstruction, for cannabis and cocaine, and now she has to get tasered in and she wants me to let her out and have a second chance. Huh, interesting.
Please, I'm asking you for a second chance, sir.
Well,
Please, so I can get my life together.
I wonder what you told the judge after the first, the second, the third arrest, the fourth arrest, the fifth.
Please, I'm in a Christian unit program here, sir, and I've come to found God, and I'm really changing my life, and I just want a chance to be able to go to a rehab, sir.
Right.
Please have mercy on me, Judge.
After a brief pause, Judge Hurley makes his ruling.
Ma'am, I'm going to let you stay in right now. I think that's the safest place for you. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Tyra Van Zant later pleaded no contest to grand theft in the 3rd degree, resisting arrest without violence, possession of an unlawfully issued driver's license, and criminal use of personal ID information. She was sentenced to 180 days in jail and 3 years probation.
Oh my God!
We now head to Stillwater, Oklahoma, for a lesser-known aspect of the legal system that we rarely touch here on Court Camp: the potentially dangerous business of bail bonds. Seated behind the desk of signature bail bonds is owner 41-year-old Chastity Carey. A week earlier, she was hired by this man, Brandon Williams. Carey paid his $35,000 bond so he could be released while waiting to return to court to face charges of second-degree burglary and possession of marijuana. The third person in the office is Chastity Carey's 19-year-old son and the butt of Williams' jokes.
You out of jail? No, you're a boy, ain't you? Just got out of jail. Ouch. I ain't gonna lie, bro. You know your mom nonstop. I don't.
But this is no laughing matter. Williams is unaware that Carey and her son are planning to revoke his bond and take him into custody after they learned he was planning on leaving the state for a trip to Florida to attend his mother's funeral.
What? What do you mean? Turn around. What's going on here? What?
Williams quickly realizes Carey isn't playing around.
Open the door. Hey, don't put your hands over.
Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Don't put your hands
Turn
on
around
me.
and put your hands behind your back.
Why? What are you doing this to me for? Why are you doing this?
Sit down. Hands behind your
What are you doing this to me for, man?
Oh,
Mom, you just shot him.
I did. Call me.
Mom, oh my God.
911. 911.
Mom, you.
After Williams is blocked from leaving through the door,
Why are you doing this?
he tries climbing out a window just off camera and onto a balcony below. That's when Carey grabs a loaded handgun from her desk and fires a single shot, striking Williams in the lower back.
Oh,
Mom, you just shot him.
I did. Call me.
Mom, oh my God.
911.
Mom, you.
On the phone, Carey reaches 911.
911. I just shot a man on top of the roof of the town center.
Okay.
I'm on the third floor.
Did you say you caught a man or you shot a man?
I shot. I need you to hurry. I'm a bondsman. He was coming after me.
Control 41, shots fired.
I shot him. Oh my God.
Police and paramedics arrive shortly after, but Williams is pronounced dead at the scene. In the police interviews that followed, Carey claimed she was acting in self-defense and that Williams had attempted to take the gun away from her right before she pulled the trigger. The video, however, appeared to tell a different story. Carey was later arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom during the 4-day murder trial, but the surveillance video would be a key piece of evidence for both the prosecution and the defense. The state argued Carey was not acting in self-defense because the video showed Williams trying to get away from her when she shot him in the back. The defense, however, said, quote, "What's not on the video is reasonable doubt." And what that means is to convict Carey of first-degree murder, jurors would need to believe that she deliberately intended to kill Williams. Ultimately, the jurors decided the state's case did not meet that burden of proof. Carey was found not guilty of first-degree murder. The victim's ex-wife has since filed a civil lawsuit against Carey.
What we have is a CAS event.
Next, we're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a video bond hearing. The defendant captured him doing more than just trespassing.
He was found in the front yard of a woman's house, caught on video, masturbating.
Here's Cassavant, who lives just 2 blocks away, prowling the yard for nearly 2 hours, exposed, and looking into windows of the home, including one which the homeowner said gave him a direct view of her 7-year-old daughter inside. After police were called, Cassavant was found hiding in a nearby shed and arrested. He was charged with an unnatural or lascivious act, resisting an officer without violence, and burglary of an unoccupied dwelling for removing a landscaping paver from the yard he was using to stand on.
All right, good morning, Mr. Casavan.
Now at his bond hearing, Judge Tabitha Blackman learns this isn't the first time he's been arrested for this type of crime.
Mr. Casavan has a lengthy history of indecent exposure cases, starting back with 2017 cases. He actually has 5 priors for indecent exposure.
As it turns out, at the time of the incident in question, Casavan was still on probation and awaiting trial for another case. He was also supposed to be wearing a GPS ankle monitor.
Mr. Casavan was not released from custody until February 25th of this year, at which time by March 17th he cut off that electronic monitor and a trial warrant was issued. After that monitor was cut off, he clearly went out and committed this offense. Based on his lengthy history of indecent exposure offenses very similar to this case, the escalating pattern of behavior, the state would be asking that you continue to hold him no bond on those no bond holds.
The judge agrees.
At this time, the court is maintaining the no bond holds. Sir, you're ordered to have no contact with the alleged victim, direct or indirect, and not to return to her listed property.
But as Judge Blackman lays out pretrial conditions, Casavan seems disinterested and can be seen talking to someone off camera.
Mr. Casavan, are you listening to me?
Yes, ma'am.
What did I just say?
I don't know what you said. I ain't gonna lie.
Looks like Casavan is once again caught with his pants down.
Okay, so I'm going to do it again, sir. If you don't listen to my release conditions, I could change them because you're not listening.
Francisco Casavan was being held without bond until his next court hearing. Joining me now is Janelle Drayton, the homeowner who captured Casavan's crime on her home security camera. Janelle, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
No problem.
How'd you first notice that he was there just outside your home?
I found out when my son, who had gone out to take the trash out, he noticed that one of the papers that's in our backyard that we use as a step was missing. And I initially thought maybe some kids playing by and moved it.
What was your reaction when you first saw him on the home security camera?
Just chills. I was afraid. It's difficult to put my feelings into words, but I think the best way that I could put it is I was scared.
That must have been pretty upsetting.
Yeah, I've moved since that incident because it was scary. I don't think I've ever been through a situation like that before, but I have relocated since then just because of the vulnerability of that area.
Well, Janelle, I am so glad to hear that you and your family are happy and safe in your new home, and thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's it for this edition of Court Cam. I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching.